Welcome to the deep dive. We're doing something a bit different today.
Yeah, taking a look back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over this past year, you've been on this pretty structured journey, right?
Hmm.
Exploring different themes each month.
All through daily reflections, aiming for that deeper, more sort of soulful understanding of being human.
So think of this as a recap,
Yeah.
a kind of high-speed look back at a whole year of personal exploration.
Hmm. Our mission here is really just to distill it down, hit the key insights from each month.
Refresh the core lessons from the source material you've been working with.
Precisely. So, where do we start? January.
Let's do it. January. Judgment. That first month, the big thing was noticing how much we evaluate everything all the time.
Right. And realizing it often says more about our own anxieties, our own stuff, than objective reality.
So the practice was about shifting to neutral observation, just seeing, without the labels.
Yeah, stripping away the good or bad. It was fascinating how ingrained that judging habit is, wasn't it?
Totally. Describing objects, people, ourselves, just factually.
Yeah.
It really highlighted that automatic tendency.
Moving from labeling to just observing.
It wasn't only judging others, it was the self-judgment, too.
Oh, absolutely. That inner critic.
Mhm.
And trying to reframe that, see the innocence underneath it all.
In ourselves and in others, even when things felt like they went wrong.
Yeah, seeing negative comments maybe coming from someone else's pain, it gives you that space, that clarity.
We even looked at how our preferences, like music or food, don't really define who we are at our core.
Right, loosening judgment's grip. The goal was really awareness, just noticing it more and letting it have less power.
Okay, then came February, the body.
Mm-hmm. Shifting the focus inward.
Seeing our physical selves not just as, matter, but as this crucial, almost sacred vehicle for the soul.
Yeah, deserving respect, even though it's tied up with the ego's way of operating. It's about changing that perspective.
Instead of just identifying with the physical body.
Exactly. Seeing it as an instrument for the soul's expression, which naturally leads to asking, how do we treat this instrument? What's its purpose?
Those daily reflections really pushed on that, didn't they? Who owns this body? Is it just mine? Or could it be for service?
Even just acknowledging the basic feelings, the likes, the dislikes about our own bodies, that was important.
And connecting to the outside world, like societal pressures around body image.
Right, how that feeds into this illusion of being separate,
Yeah.
looking hard at norms around clothes, gender, even casual comments about how people look.
Challenging stuff.
Right.
Towards more acceptance.
Ultimately, yeah. Freedom from those limiting ideas about what a body should be or look like.
Okay, so March. Characters.
This was a big one. The idea that we show the world every day is like a character we're playing.
A role in the human drama. Separate from the deeper soul.
Exactly. And understanding that difference gives the soul room to breathe, to guide things more.
So the character is like the gatekeeper. Making choices, deciding how to react.
Pretty much. Using its free will. It makes you wonder how conscious we are of the character we're actually playing day to day.
The reflections were about assessing that, weren't they? Looking at our character's achievements, good and bad.
And asking, how much was the soul involved there? Seeing life through both lenses, character actions, soul influence.
Gives a richer picture of why we do what we do.
And thinking about how family, friends, how those characters impact our soul's expression too.
We compared ego reactions versus soulful responses in tough spots.
Yeah, the whole point was becoming more aware, making that conscious choice for a soulful response over just the programmed ego stuff.
Which leads nicely into April, role-playing. Taking that character idea a step further.
Right, looking at how we adopt specific roles, often driven by the ego, and how those rigid roles can limit our realness, our authenticity.
It highlighted how much ego-driven behavior relies on everyone else sticking to their roles too.
Totally. It makes relationships kind of fragile, doesn't it? And that desire for something more genuine starts to surface.
And these roles are often tied to ego needs, like needing to feel special or powerful.
Yeah. The reflections got into the details, which roles feel easy, which are hard. Do we play the same kind of part everywhere?
How have the roles changed over time? Did we ever step outside the expected roles for our age or situation?
That contrast was key, too. Soul-dominant people serving a function versus characters just playing a part.
We looked at unspoken expectations around roles, that feeling of letting people down.
And April finished by asking, could we fuel these roles with love instead of fear? Could we be more fluid?
Less rigid, risk change for more freedom.
Ugh.
Interesting. Then May, character assassination.
Oof. Yeah, this one was about the mind's habit of labeling everything good or bad.
And what happens when people step outside the lines? That harsh judgment, the exclusion.
That image was powerful, wasn't it? The dead bodies of assassinated characters all around us. It really shows the impact of judging so rigidly.
We look at how blame and shame drive it, and the toll it takes on well-being.
The reflection started inward, with self-blame, then outward, to blame from others.
How it poisons relationships. The role of gossip.
And realizing that even if you refuse to play that game, you can get labeled negatively yourself.
We question why people do it. That desire for control often underneath.
It's damaging, disrespectful, online, even in so-called jokes.
It adds up. The month ended with a call to stop the self-criticism and build others up instead.
Yeah, cultivate more soulful ways of interacting.
Okay, halfway point. June was feelings.
The messy, complicated world of being human with thoughts and feelings, often tangled up.
Yeah, the source material talked about how big life events can really stir up that jumbled mix.
And the soul's role isn't to control the thoughts, but to help process the feelings that come up.
So the key was clearing some mental clutter to actually feel.
Exactly. Patience, seeking guidance from love, not just reacting to the noise in our heads.
The reflections were about naming difficult feelings, noticing negative thoughts about feelings.
And seeing that accepting feelings, even the tough ones, is the path away from inner conflict.
We judge feelings as bad so often, right?
Yeah.
Feel ashamed for having them.
And questioning, are feelings trustworthy? Especially the ones pointing towards peace compared to maybe reactive thoughts.
June urged us to make time to sort through it all, find the real emotion, not just the reaction.
And that balance between compassion for others and keeping your own peace.
Distinguishing feelings that come from love
Yeah.
versus feelings that lead to love.
Right. It touched on gut instincts, allowing feelings, even planned release of anger sometimes. Love embraces it all.
Ending with self-acceptance and setting boundaries and sharing.
Yeah, very important.
In July, wow, the holy instant, this felt different.
It was profound, wasn't it? That idea of a moment outside of time.
Yeah.
A state of clarity, connection.
To the soul, to the all of all, as the material put it.
Timeless time. No thoughts, no worries. Where the soul's power is, where you remember who you really are.
And the amazing part, it's accessible now, any moment.
A constant reminder of our divine spark, our connection to everyone, to God.
It makes you question our usual obsession with linear time, doesn't it?
Definitely. The reflections looked at our first reactions to this idea. How it could bridge that gap between soul and human character.
Timelessness, mindlessness, calls from the holy instant.
And that paradox. It feels almost unreal, yet it's presented as more real than everyday life.
It strengthens the soul, apparently. The reflections touched on trying it out. What feelings came up about true identity?
Reinforcing who we are, helping in daily life, the soul as this priceless jewel.
The source of hope and trust. The material called the holy instant a wonderful drug without side effects.
Yeah, using that connection for guidance, for loving solutions.
But it takes practice, right? The brain is loud, the soul is quiet.
Trusting the soul as part of God. The holy instant gets you closer. Prayer from the soul.
That idea that God looks like me, wow.
It was presented as the real secret, our birthright. Maybe the most important concept all year, relying on yourself to remember who you are.
Experiencing it right now. God within. Okay, deep breath. August. Your relationship with the unknown.
Acknowledging our senses are limited, right? We can't perceive everything.
And that natural curiosity about what's out there. Other life, death, purpose.
The key idea offered was that no one ever dies. Just the body, the character leaves the stage.
Souls live on, formless, serving the divine.
A comforting idea of reunion with loved ones, understanding past stuff with the blinders off.
Highlighting how little we usually see. We're kind of blind to the whole picture, the connections, part of the illusion.
Which makes you rethink our usual fear of the unknown, death, the afterlife.
Discussing ghosts. UFOs challenging the idea that exploring the unseen is bad.
Maybe spirit beings share our space, different dimensions, all part of us, part of God.
The reflections tackle that fear, equating unseen with monsters. Ego, keeping the spirit realm taboo because of fear of death.
Seeing seen and unseen as two sides of a coin.
People shared experiences of sensing loved ones who've passed. Telepathic communication possibilities.
Spirit travel through space and time, not scary. Soul companions supporting and challenging us.
That reminder, you're never alone. The spirit world is varied. Interesting.
Spirit world supports, physical world remembers our calling, our service.
That principle, do no harm, be helpful, tied to remembering who we are.
Safety comes from authenticity, knowing you're part of God.
Progression from soul emergent to fully realized.
And needing to ask for spirit help, give permission, ending with the speaker being present in both realms, always home.
September. Love. Simple word, complex topic.
Drawing that line between infatuation, which is common, and true unconditional love, which is rare here.
True love never condemns, never needs to forgive.
A call for love from the soul, wanting more of itself, less fear. The character can't call for what it doesn't know.
Examples like abuse were used to clarify true love doesn't tolerate that. Self-love means boundaries.
Makes you rethink common ideas about love, often shaped by things that aren't really love at all.
Reflection started with loving from a distance sometimes, for your own well-being. Love looks after itself first.
Love extends soul to soul. The ego resists that purity.
True love comes from the soul surfacing, working inside out, not fixing character flaws.
We unconditionally deserve love. Love is the only real eternal thing in a world often resisting it.
Love is patient. Waits till you're ready.
Exploring that falling in love feeling versus discovering real love.
The excitement of applying love, seeing a new world, setting aside old ideas from, movies or bad experiences.
The soul knows love, is love. Trust its guidance. Be willing to discover it.
Addressing fears is unconditional love weak. How does it work in a tough world? Defining it as unrestricted care.
Love embraces itself, and the absence of love sees it as a challenge, a place to shine light.
Non-judgmental. Decides based on what is love and what isn't yet.
Ending with asking daily, what would love have me do? Or be,
October. Grief, a heavy one.
yeah, the pain of loss. Presented as a huge life lesson, but with big rewards if we choose love over fear in processing it.
The danger of unresolved grief hanging around, leading to self-blame, illness, destructive behavior.
Acknowledging grief isn't in the spirit world, no loss in love, but it's incredibly real for us humans.
The goal wasn't to wish grief away, but to see it through love's eyes, understand it healthily.
Described as identity mixed with loss, plus that flood of thoughts, what now? Could I have done more? Is it my fault?
Stages of grief exist, but you can get stuck. The pain, physical and emotional, can last.
The advice, remember your true identity. Ask the soul for help, moment by moment, in the holy instant.
Honor both the human and the divine aspects during grief.
Reflections linked grief to unresolved trauma, encouraged patience, self-love.
Accumulated grief. Realizing difficult people might just be carrying trauma and grief themselves.
Remembering what helped before during grief. The long road to acceptance, healing.
Understanding death's role maybe helps process loss. Other life stuff causes trauma, triggers grief too. Preventing trauma is key.
Using the holy instant, sorting feelings, forgiveness ways to stop feelings hardening into grief. How attached ideas shouldn't have happened, if only invite grief.
Missing the person's physical presence, the talks, the shared stuff, that's real.
New family roles, survivor's guilt, conflict popping up. Infusing those situations with love from the soul. Soul guiding how to make it better. Grief's pain lasting forever versus being temporary with love's guidance. That contrast. Overcoming grief with love. Grief as a teacher teaching us to love the hurting parts. Ending with a thought that maybe grief is the hardest lesson here on earth.
Wow. Okay, nearing the end. November. Acceptance.
Yeah, the difference between easily accepting stuff we like versus stuff we don't.
A life of acceptance means observing without getting sucked in emotionally, staying neutral, even if you feel anger or sadness.
That's a challenge, accepting all the world's happenings without losing your peace.
Identifying more as soul helps disempower events. See them as they are. Take the good with the bad.
Stop trying to figure out why. Just accept it happened. Limits the horror's power. Acceptance isn't lacking values or not caring. It's knowing your limits of control.
And letting the soul's love guide where you can make a difference.
Reflection started with what you've never fully accepted. The pain that causes.
Blame prevents acceptance. Who do you blame for your response to non-acceptance?
Thinking about other unaccepted things. Then, things finally accepted. The peace that followed.
Experiences of being rejected. Rejecting others.
Yeah.
Pressure to conform for acceptance.
That idea of being acceptable, conditional acceptance, not real acceptance. Like dress codes, no shoes, no service. Did parents push conformity for acceptance? Accepting different opinions to avoid conflict? Agree to disagree? Then self-acceptance. I'm not just my thoughts, my history. I'm also a soul, part of God. God's love helps accept rejected things, people. Rejection versus love. Accepting others as they are, but still needing boundaries. Don't have to hang out with everyone. Accepting others' resistance to love, even if it's hard to be around. Bless everyone, curse no one, like attracts like. Maybe dissimilar energies don't benefit from closeness.
And that final point,
Yeah.
you can't save others. They have to save themselves.
Powerful.
And finally, December, forgiveness.
A huge theme. The final step to authenticity. A necessary tool in the ego's world.
Because in the spirit realm, there's no condemnation, so no need for forgiveness.
Forgiveness was defined as shedding a false idea about others or yourself, meaning you have no need or right to condemn.
Condemnation invalidates God's process of growth.
Forgiveness leads to freedom, releases the tyranny of lies. The ego's world is full of slaves to those lies.
Forgiveness releases guilt. You see the havoc guilt causes everywhere. Freedom needs forgiveness.
Reflections started with people needing repeated forgiveness. Times you were repeatedly forgiven. Forgiven meaning overlooked, clean slate.
It's essential for your own peace of mind. Realizing judgment just makes things worse.
Accept more, judge less. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself.
Maybe you don't need to forgive for your sake, but for theirs. Interesting angle.
Starts with yourself. Forgiving your past shortcomings, harm caused. Then forgiving others, intentional or not.
Forgiving life for not giving you what you wanted. Forgiving others based on perceived ease or hardship.
Forgiving yourself for thinking you know enough to judge others. That was key.
Forgiveness is the key to happiness now. The future depends on being free from the past.
Choosing to forgive, release the past every day. That power. The image of your judgments being a chain. Others' words or actions, a ball and chain. Forgiveness breaks them.
Best gift to yourself and anyone else.
Can't be rushed, though. Needs time.
Replace curses with blessings lessens the need for forgiveness.
Judgments without forgiveness cause great harm to self and others.
And the wrap-up. Can't control much in life, but you can control your reactions. Through forgiveness.
A powerful end to the year's themes.
And just briefly, the epilogue mentioned this whole year was about digging under the programmed mind, letting the soul speak.
And the gift of wisdom being the next step. Sharing what you've learned, supporting others, waking up.
So looking back at this whole year, the big picture seems to be this journey, right? From ego reactions
To living more from the soul. Through awareness, acceptance, and, well, love.
Exactly. The goal wasn't just theory. It was giving you tools to see yourself as more than just this character.
As a soul connected to something much bigger, much more real.
And these insights aren't the finish line. They're a foundation for more growth, maybe even helping others.
Definitely a starting point for what comes next.
So here's something to think about. After going through this whole year of looking inward, how will you actively, consciously cultivate your soul's voice in the year ahead?
And what new perspectives might that bring to how you experience reality?
Definitely something to reflect on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.